Welcome, everyone, to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent. I was about to say host. I was about to promote you, my permanent guest, Cammy.
Wow. Oh,
No, not
no.
not yet, Cammy. We'll see. Give it another 6 months. We'll see.
Okay.
Welcome back to your show, Cammy.
Thanks, Bryant. Welcome back to your show.
Yeah, so it's been a hell of a time. We're switching back to twice a month, bi-weekly releases,
Right.
once every 2 weeks releases, not two a week. And it's because we got a little caught up. Cammy caught COVID because she thought me having it was not enough.
Right. I was
So
jealous.
right, so we got through that. But we have been having some fun with the episodes. We've been re-catching up on some of the older episodes that we did back when our setup was crummy and it sounded bad. If you want to hear those, because they're fun. The format was pretty similar, but it was a little different. Lots of wisecrackings though. Pinecast.com/mythstorie. That's our hosting website. You can like subscribe to our wallet or I can't remember. I think it's called our wallet. You can give
Tip
like a
jar.
buck. Tip jar. There we go. And it'll let you download basically any episode that we have, because I've hidden them because I don't want a new listener like you who might be listening right now to come in and hear us sound like we're in a vacuum with fans on, and because that's what it sounded like. And one of the old episodes that we did that was a fun one was on the Yeti, not the coolers, not the t-shirt store, but the abominable hairy bipedal being, right?
Right. Exactly.
So as the show goes, Cammy will give a story, and then I'll have a little discussion. It was fun to look at my old notes because I have all my stuff saved in Google Docs, and so I just get to search Yeti, and boom, there it was. So Cammy has a new story though, right?
No, I have the same story. I did
Oh,
have
okay.
to re-find it though, because unlike Bryant, I didn't type everything out. I used to write it by hand when we were sitting around a table with one microphone. And so I don't have any of this stuff. I should probably try to find those notebooks.
Right. Yeah. No, we'll
So I
publish
don't
that.
have any of it typed out. So I had to re-find the story and then do it.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, Cammy, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used nazine.com, and that was my only source for this. Atek's life was a simple one. He lived alone at the foothills of the Himalayas. His days consisted of tending to his ranch, and at night he would play his flute to pass the time. One day, as he started to play his flute while his dinner was cooking, a large hairy beast who walked like a man came down from the mountains to spy on him. Atek was frightened, but he kept making music. When he thought he could play no longer, the Yeti rushed to him and picked up the flute and made him play some more. So he did, until dawn. He was tired the next day, as he did all of his chores, and frightened that the beast would come again and hurt him or his flock. He did not want to play his flute that night in hopes the Yeti would leave him in peace, but she didn't. She came again and forced the flute to his lips. After many nights of this, he was ready to try anything to get rid of the intruder. He had lost countless hours of sleep and still had to tend to his ranch during daylight. He devised a plan. That night he started putting butter on his legs and arms by the fire and intermittently picking up the flute. The Yeti came down from the mountain and began to mimic him. Then he picked up a large stick and put it in the fire. The Yeti did the same. He took the flaming stick and pretended to light himself on fire. The Yeti, happy to copy him still, only her buttered fur caught flame and sent her running to the mountains, never to be seen again. This is why the Yeti live far up the Himalayas, to never be disturbed by man.
I remember that. As soon as you said butter, I was like,
Yeah!
I remember the story.
It's
Yeah.
the butter one.
How offensive that they would not know what. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, again, it's fun going back to these to see what I remember and see what's there. Not a whole lot new in the Yeti business in the last 2 years since we did this.
Sure.
But it's fun to come at my research angle that I do now. A lot of the sources that I kind of hit the normals. Some fun things though. I found Nat Geo had a write up on it. Pantheon.org was an old source that I used that was fun. I did use an old JSTOR article. I didn't have access to that. I do have my notes from that, and I remember it. It was fun to see, and of course, Wikipedia and such. But it was fun to see a lot of I don't think I got this the last time I did this, but the Yeti's really grouped in with Bigfoot and any other big hairy dude man, primate man. Um, so it's funny to see that, and that was the focus on a lot, especially like the Nat Geo thing. Like there was like 50 facts or 20, 25 things like Nat Geo TV did, Yeti facts. One thing that I saw, and I'll just start with this, was because the Nat Geo, this is I found this little list, and it was their top thing was the search for the Yeti dates back as early as 326 BC, and I was just like, what? And apparently, so the search to I'm going to quote Nat Geo here. The search to find the Yeti can be traced back to the time of Alexander the Great.
Okay. Everything goes back to him.
I know. Who in 326 set to conquer the Indus Valley. Okay. Having heard the stories of the Yeti, demanded to see one for himself. But the local people.
So it already was a thing before Alexander the Great got there, even.
It seems like it, but they definitely. I of course, Nat Geo doesn't have like a bibliography at the bottom of their thing.
Sure.
And so I kind of started looking into this, and this gentleman, David Hay, answered on Quora. Someone answered this, and he did provide some sources. And his answer, David Hay's answer, was this is doubtful. He definitely went there. He definitely was around there. But he pointed out the primary historical sources for his time were much after his time. They were Roman. This historical source written by Rufus. He makes no reference to this. A later Roman, Arian, does. And it was great too. There was this other article that was that I did find, because Alexander the Great did not fight Yetis. That's what the article title was. And I was like, oh, that's good. So yeah, both of these Roman writers, they did base their writings upon earlier Greek sources that were lost, unfortunately. But yeah, it's funny too, because they mention how apparently someone claimed he fought flying saucers and did other crazy things. But no, he did not do this. And it is popularly noted that Alexander would have referred to the Hindu Kush as the Caucasus Indicus, and that this is a later Latin phrase that he wouldn't have used. So there's a whole bunch of like synchro errors and historical errors. And so if you see the buzzword of Alexander the Great going toe to toe with Yetis, probably not true. I imagine like the language though, because like the word Yeti is it's etymologically it comes from ya or che is the best way I can kind of pronounce it. It's like a soft CHE, but it kind of gets westernized to Yeti, and it means a rocky place and bear. And I do distinctly remember talking about that in our original show. And we have, there's lots of different variants of this word too, like man, bear, wild man. I'm not going to try and pronounce
man, bear, pig.
Pretty much. I'm not going to try and use the local languages, because I'm going to butcher those. But it all kind of goes upon this. But it's sort of referencing to this wild man, wild creature, and there is the term wild man. Additionally, neighboring areas of Tibet, which is where this is all based from, Russia, China, and even farther out in like Japan, there are similar beings, similar creatures, just like how we kind of have Bigfoot. So
Sure.
There's always this kind of thing. A lot of people think it has to do with the Himalayan brown bear, or the Himalayan red bear. There's also the Tibetan blue bear. There's even the langur, the langur monkey. A lot of these could easily be mistaken for.
Oh, those monkeys will break into your house and like steal your stuff. So
your credit score tanks. You gotta look for a langur
they
monkey.
take all your credit cards. Yeah.
Damn langur monkeys. So yeah, it obviously there's a lot of that. In 2003, a Japanese researcher and mountaineer, Dr. Makoto Nobuka, he published a 12-year linguistic study postulating that the word Yeti is a corruption of the word Medi, a regional dialect term for bear. Nobuka claims that ethnic Tibetans fear and worship the bear as a supernatural being. They received immediate criticism and was accused of carelessness. And another doctor who researched both Yetis and mountain languages doesn't think it's enough. That's a little too loose.
Sure.
A rhyme is a little bit, but I think that there's some ideas here for sure, and there's like I said, local beliefs in China and even Russia that there's this wild man or wild bear. It's like one or the other. You're either a wild man or you're a wild bear, or you're hairy or you're rocky or something like that. So there is some like evidence that the Yeti was a part of pre-Buddhist beliefs of several Himalayan peoples. There was a Dr. Seeger. He did some studies. He was told that the Lepcha people worshipped a glacier being as a god of the hunt. Followers of the Bon religion once believed of a wild man god as well, that was depicted as an ape-like creature who carries a large stone as a weapon and makes a whistling swoosh sound. I forgot that. That's very what a characteristic. Yeah. What swoosh sound does your god make? So
Maybe that's why the Yeti was attracted to the flute.
right. What about the butter
Oh,
though?
myth
I mean, right?
busted.
Yeah, myth busted. It's over. We cracked this open. So what is wild to see and what I remembered, so there's this book, Abominable Science: Origins of the Yeti, Nessie, and Other Famous Cryptids by Donald Prothero and Daniel Loxton. I did read this back because I was in school and I had a JSTOR access, and this is a cool little book. They kind of crack these things down. These two, one of them writes of their experience in Tibet in the summer of 1973, and how there was Yeti stuff for sale everywhere. And it
Oh, I
came,
remember you talking about that.
and like there was also a back home, there was this you know big in the films. That's all. The Abominable Snowman thing kind of came out. And here my notes talk about Yeti, animal of rocky places, Meite, man bear. Tibetans also called it Zute, cattle bear. Also the name for the Himalayan brown bear, which can walk on its hind legs, or Migo, which also means wild man. Also in Chinese dialects, there's some connections there too. There's some. I mentioned Brian Hodgson, who I think was a archaeologist or hunter of some kind, and in 1832, who did some interactions with this too and wrote a little bit. But yeah, apparently, so the 1950s were the golden age of like Yeti hunting. The Nepalese government was offering licenses for them. So it was just really interesting to see. Then there's also there. So I remember this too. I didn't come across this in Wikipedia though. Gigantopithecus was a giant relative of the orangutan. Not a close relative of humans, although anthropologists do not have much evidence of its skeleton. It is reasonable to assume that its foot resembled that of an orangutan or another great ape, not that of a human, with its reduced big toe and inability to grasp. I remember looking up the Gigantopithecus. If you Google this, yeah, it's like an old relative of the orangutan. That could explain the lore, the background.
Well, with the
that. You find the bone.
Gigantopithecus, did it live at the same time as humans at all, or any
I
human?
don't believe so. I think this is
I don't
like
remember. When I studied anthropology, we went over all of
two.
the hominids and all of the great apes and stuff like that. But I do
Quick
not remember when.
a quick Google: extinct genus of ape from roughly 2 million to 350,000 years ago. So, a very long time ago, around in southern China. But for around 100,000 years ago, one of the last Pleistocene ice ages became extinct. So, and it was giant. It was huge. I mean, it's you would be like, oh yeah, it's Bigfoot or Yeti, like literally, yeah. You Google like the renditions of it. It's basically like a big orangutan that's ready to roll, like ready to rock around and take you out and steal your butter. So it's just kind of cool that this has these myths all have been feeding each other, and they're getting wrapped up like Bigfoot and things like that.
There's
And
also stuff like
across other
Louisiana
languages.
has like a skunk ape and stuff like
Oh,
that.
really?
That's similar.
Yeah, they drive, and when you're selling license, the government is selling licenses for fun. I mean, you have to do something because it's like you're getting tourism not just for Yetis. You got to upkeep this area, but it's a huge thing, and you've got to like do something about it. So that license is hopefully going to like good causes of upkeep and at least like keeping tourists in safe areas and paying tour
Rescuing people
guides and
from the
from
Himalayas.
exactly, yeah, like from protecting yourself from the Himalayas and things like that. So, um, it's pretty wild. I liked going back through it. Did see a lot of things that I do remember, and man, it was funny. The Nat Geo thing before I finish up had some funny other things. Apparently, a German professor had was enlisted by the SS Heinrich Himmler to search for the Yeti in 1938. Um, Schaefer, the German professor, Ernst Schaefer, concluded it was the Tibetan brown bear. So yeah, apparently the Nazis wanted to weaponize the Yeti or
I'm
something.
sure
Um,
they wanted to weaponize everything.
yeah. So there's a few other little things. Sherpa tradition holds that the Yeti will only show itself to those who believe in it. Maybe it's Santa.
Oh, like
Um,
yeah, and Ghost.
and then they and near the end the Nat Geo throws in this fact: Bigfoot sightings have been reported in every U.S. state except Hawaii.
I'm sure Hawaii has its own thing, right?
Right. Yeah. So I again like it trying to like put all those together, but I just thought it was great, and just I thought it was wild. I didn't come across that Alexander the Great thing before. I feel like that's got to be more recent than anything. I'm sure there were definitely like crazy things that Alexander was told about, and but just to assume it was the Yeti and go off of these sources, and it's just funny how it works out. And it's tough. It's a lesson on you've got to remember we lose so many of our sources, and the secondary sources are quoting secondary sources and quoting and
Right.
so it goes through so many like games of telephone. Like what are we getting back? And we're not getting back Alexander the Great fighting Yetis. That's not what we're getting. So, but thank you, Cammy, for your story. That was fun. My brain like remembering that was a fun sensation. Thank you everyone for listening. So yeah, one episode every 2 weeks is what our goal is. Should be that way. I think for until the summer is what our
At
we
least
imagine.
until summer, yeah.
Yeah, but we hope to bring more content to you as it goes. Let us know if you'd like us to cover anything in particular. Mythstorie, that's all one word with an IE, at gmail.com, or say hey to us on Facebook. YouTube, you can watch us. Most podcast or podcasting services, you can hear us. And I think that's pretty much it. Cammy, is there anything you need to end this episode with?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say, do you feel like you believe in the Yeti, or
Oh, I mean, I think it's I believe that those cultures have been absolutely affected by it. That people have been, but I don't know. It's tough. I remember being really struck by the gigantopithecus. I remember finding I didn't save whatever source, but I distinctly remember seeing like a picture in an article, and from seeing the skull of one, I think is what we
Sure.
had or something like that, and it was wild. And
they have
so
part of a jawbone, I think. I don't even
I
think
think
they have a whole skull, but
that's
they've
right. I think I
reconstructed the skull
remember
from
seeing
the
this. Yeah,
jawbone, yeah.
and it was massive. And so I like that more above anything. I don't think anything like that. I don't think there's like a Yeti.
You
Or
think
it's
they
like
found some
or
skeletons at some point and they were like, oh yeah, this thing exists for
heck
sure, or
yeah, heck
whatever.
yeah. And then you got monkeys jumping in your room, stealing stuff,
Yeah.
and brown bears like moonwalking in the forest. And yeah, it's easy to believe that for sure. So it's wild. Don't buy Yeti fur if you go to Nepal. It's not that. Don't buy a lock of
It's
Yeti
not
fur.
ethically sourced.
Yeah. Yeah. Check the label on your Yeti hair, people. Okay. All right. Well, I think that just about does it. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Oh.
Oh. What does it sound as a Yeti make?